Good afternoon, fellow patriots. This is Matt Shea, and welcome to Patriot Radio, broadcasting live from deep inside the heart of the future Liberty State. Sponsored once again by On Fire Ministries, in the legacy of Dr. Stan Monteith, bringing you the story behind the story and the news behind the news, where it's not about right or left, it's about right and wrong. It's about our hope not being in man, but in Jesus Christ. About not ending in prayer, but moving to action. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Father, deliver us from the evil one.
Welcome to Patriot Radio.
Good afternoon, fellow patriots. This is Matt Shea, and welcome to Patriot Radio. Today, corruption comes to a very abrupt end as weaponized government is turned against itself, and the liberals are freaking out. We're going to do an extended brief today because there is so much information that you need to know about, particularly regarding U.S. aid and the FBI that has just come out today, and some very good news on advancements of Trump appointees and nominees. Also, what you need to know today on Patriot Radio is that reformation has begun. Reformation is the reform of institutions, or as we know in Scripture, making disciples of all nations, bringing those things into alignment with the kingdom of God. And people will be so offended by that, but I don't really care, and neither should you, because when they're brought into alignment with God, corruption comes to an end like it is right now. And it's actually a beautiful thing to see. Trump is moving so fast that the outrage machine of the Democrats can't keep up. And there's more in store, and especially by the end of this week, we're going to see some pretty extraordinary things happening as well. Here at Patriot Radio, we bring you all of the news and information you need to prepare your family for the times ahead and the times that are already upon us. But no fear, we were made for this. Now, one of the things that you can do, I have a lot of people asking, I want you to just stop for a second. A lot of people asking me, what can I do to get some of this news? You scroll, you spend hours scrolling, you don't need to do that. You can actually go to our Telegram channel where we aggregate real-time intelligence analysis and breaking news for you at patriotradio.us/Telegram. Click on that QR code, follow us, and see if that becomes your place for news. We aggregate from hundreds of different sources every day. And what really is helpful, it's from around the world. And so you get everything from the China front and the Middle East front and the Russia front, South America front. You get it from the national front, the key news that the mainstream media, they don't want to report. And candidly, some podcasts aren't able to keep up with either. So check it out. And also, because we believe that Jesus Christ is the King of the United States of America, we also believe in the power of prayer. And so if you're isolated or you're feeling like you need someone to walk alongside you and pray for you and pray with you, patriotradio.us/prayer. Click on the QR code and send in a prayer request so that we can pray for you, no matter where you are at in the United States. Doesn't matter. We're all in this together as Christians and as patriots. And that brings us now to wisdom from the Word. And we're going to add a little bit of tombstone in here too. I think you'll see why here in just a second. Isaiah chapter 2, verse 12. But first, a video from Tombstone, a little clip. I've heard a lot of people say, you guys are you're Christians, and God says, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. It's amazing how unbelievers love to quote the Bible. Judge not, lest... These are the only, verses they know, right? They have never read the whole Bible. But it's interesting that people say that what Trump is doing is revenge. It's not revenge. It's something quite different, and it's a scriptural idea that is really born out of love for our fellow human beings. So we're going to start first with Tombstone.
No, make no mistake. It's not revenge he's after. It's a reckoning.
It is a reckoning. It's justice. Isaiah chapter 2, verse 12. For the Lord of the armies, Yahweh Sabaoth in the original Hebrew, will have a day of reckoning against everyone who is arrogant and haughty, and against everyone who is lifted up, that he may be brought low. Now, this is a cautionary tale for all of us that we are not haughty and lifted up, but also, well, it's an encouragement that God will bring a reckoning to things, and he uses human beings to do it. One of those human beings he is using is President Donald J. Trump. There needs to be a righting of the ship. Some people say that Trump's tweets are mean. He's not nice. You know, we're not actually called to be nice. We're called to be loving. And one of the loving things to do is to confront evil and to throw it out of the places that is hurting so many people. And we're going to go into detail today about how that evil has infected the United States government and how it's been turned against you and me. And I'm going to relate a couple stories that have happened, one of which I have never talked about publicly before, but I think I'm going to talk about it today. And what is also interesting is that with a reckoning, people will scream for mercy, even though they have shown none to the people that they have abused, oppressed, and persecuted for so long. A reckoning is about alpha male leadership, saying that's enough and no more. And it may not be nice, but it is always loving. And the loving thing to do is to stop evil in its tracks. A lot of people don't understand the idea of judgment, God's judgment. They think that God is kind of some kind of arbitrary person. He's just throwing out judgment wherever. Look, judgment is already attached to evil. Evil is already judged. So when we let evil in, we let God's judgment in because it's attached to the evil. So you stop the evil and his judgment doesn't come in. It's quite simple, actually. The fact of the matter is, our enemies, the globalists, the jihadis, the communists, have infiltrated America at the highest levels. And now they're being rooted out systematically. Their networks are being disrupted. I mean, we heard last week, $200 million Chinese smuggling network. What do you think they were smuggling? Why? Do we understand that our adversaries know more about America than maybe sometimes we do? They realize more about American strength than sometimes we do. That America is the last great obstacle to the globalists and the achievement of their goal, which is well documented in the book Tragedy and Hope by Carol Quigley, a mentor of Bill Clinton. That goal is one world government, one world economy, and eventually, although not in that book, one world religion. They're very open about this. And what's interesting is the scripture is too. 2,000 years before Yuval Noah Harari was talking about this, Paul was talking about this, and Jesus was talking about this, and so was Peter. That at some point, man wants to centralize power when he's under the influence of evil. But God's plan is quite different. God actually wants to decentralize power. That's why he made each one of us the potential temple of the Holy Spirit. But we have to believe in him for that power to work through us. It was the genius of the founding fathers of the United States of America. We the people were the government of the United States, presupposing a couple things in their understanding. One, we were Christians, and two, we showed up so that God could work through us. Many of us in America today think that it's going to be Donald Trump or maybe just his cabinet or maybe all the leaders that even he selects that are going to turn this whole ship around. It's not the case. It's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us to bring a reckoning back for this country to right the ship. And I think ultimately to fulfill prophecies that had been spoken even 100 years ago, that America would be, again, a city shining on a hill, a beacon of hope for the rest of the world. And that brings us now to an extended daily intelligence brief coming to us from the globalist front.
The future is built by us. We have the means to make progress on the global agenda.
Yeah, no thank you. U.S. President Donald Trump said no thank you too, as he signed an executive order withdrawing the United States from the UN Human Rights Council and halting all further funding to both the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, or UNRWA, and the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO. The executive order also calls for a full review of any and all additional funding provided to the United Nations as a whole. Wow. Perhaps we might actually get the United States out of the United Nations and the United Nations out of the United States. Many people say, well, that would be foolish. Well, really? Who started it? Interesting that Alger Hiss, a confirmed Soviet agent, was one of its first leaders. And that its leader currently today used to be the Secretary General, wait for it, for the Socialist Internationale. You got to understand that the majority of countries in the United Nations right now fall into two blocks. They fall into the block of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, or the Socialist Internationale, both antithetical to the United States of America. And to prove a little bit of that point, let's go to one of our favorite people to quote from, Yuval Noah Harari, and what he was saying recently at the WEF.
Because there is a wave of immigrants, millions and millions of AI immigrants coming to France, coming to Germany, coming to all over the world. They don't need visas. They don't need to come in boats. They don't sneak across borders in the middle of the night. And they are already taking the jobs of newspaper editors.
If we could pause that, what he is saying is that you've stopped the illegal immigrant invasion. That's what he's saying. And he knows that in Europe, parties like the AfD in Germany are gaining momentum, and that eventually not only is Germany going to shut down its borders, which it has, there's going to be a further expulsion of some of these immigrants from these countries. So he understands that. So they're telegraphing what they're going to do next. What they're going to do next is they're going to try to invade through artificial intelligence. Listen.
Of many other people.
I'm gonna be a dictator, I don't mind.
And they have completely different ideas about how to manage society and culture than the traditions of any human community. And so if people are afraid of immigration, this is the immigration they should be thinking about.
That they should be afraid of. That's what he was really saying. Thank you for telegraphing that. And when we come back from the break, more from the globalist front, especially on AI, and well, it looks like a breakthrough as Elon Musk goes to the heart of darkness and exposes where the evil agenda is being funded from.
Attention business owners and entrepreneurs, Patriot TV is launching a brand new TV series showcasing American-made products, and your business could be featured. Whether you sell your products online, on Etsy or Shopify, and dream of reaching millions of viewers on smart TVs like Samsung, Sony, TCL, and LG, or apps like Roku, Android, and Apple TV, this is your chance. We're searching for U.S.-based businesses offering all types of products and services proudly made in the USA. If you've ever wanted to showcase your products on TV like QVC or the Home Shopping Network, now's your opportunity. Support our American economy, grow your business, and be seen by loyal Patriot viewers across the country. Know someone with a business or have a business yourself? Don't miss out. Contact us at supportingpatriots.com today. Be a guest on this new exciting TV series. Let's put your American-made products in the spotlight.
Vladimir Putin will remain in office until 2036.
Putin is being called bold.
What's your strategy to bring them back to the Stone Age?
Daring. You won't be able to look away.
How can his kingdom last?
Putin. Rated R. In select theaters January 10th.
From Horizon Events comes a bold and daring new thriller, Putin, that tells the inside story of Vladimir Putin's rise to power and imagines how, in the near future, that rise could come to a shocking and very short end. Putin is rated R and is in select theaters Friday. I want to mention something about this, and from a Christian perspective, if you have never read the prophecy Second Esdras, it actually prophesies how the Eastern Roman Empire will rise for a third time and come to a very quick end. Very interesting. And now back to the globalist front. Elon Musk gained access to the Treasury Department's payment system. And as a result of that, they began freaking out. They, being the left and the globalists, began freaking out because they understood that as soon as he had access to that, he could start exposing things. Now, what came out of that is that payments were ordered to continue even when they knew that there were fraudulent payments or they were going to potential terrorist organizations. You heard that right. That's why they didn't want them to get into this. Now, these payment systems control the flow of about $6 trillion annually. Tens of millions of people across the country rely on these systems. And the very interesting piece about this is that we're going to find out not just where the money was going, but who was behind sending it there. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit when we get to the national front. But we have one more video from Yuval Noah Harari that I want to play. And again, listen to the arrogance behind the words. Go ahead and roll the clip.
Basically, AI is the first technology in history that is not a tool, it is an agent. It is something that...
You hear that? He's calling AI an agent of what? An agent for whom? These are questions we need to ask. AI for them is becoming an agent for globalism, an agent of globalists. And if you understand that, then we need to ask some serious questions about any implementation of AI. While there are some useful things that can be implemented for that, are we really wanting AI to tell us things or manage our culture? Very weird comment, by the way. Go ahead and roll the clip.
It can make decisions by itself. It is something that can create new ideas, invent new things by itself, from new texts to new poetry.
So this is interesting because that is actually a lie. First of all, there's nothing new under the sun. Number two, there is no new text. AI takes from old text, all of these old texts that it has access to, and then tries to make something new. That's not really new. It's not really new. It might be compiled in a new format, but it's actually not really new. And that's the lie here. They're trying to make people think that AI is going to be coming up with these new ideas. And it's so interesting because these new ideas are going to be socialist. These new ideas are going to be communist. You don't need property. We got it all for you. Let us make the decisions for you. Make your life easy. You can just sit around and play video games and be in your little apartment 200 square feet and have a surrogate go out and do all your work for you. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch the movie Surrogates that has Bruce Willis in it. They talk about what they want to do. And then, oh, by the way, you get your universal basic income, but you must be a good little slave and have a good social credit score because you're compliant. All right, continue.
To new medicines, to new weapons.
Oh,
Every
weapons.
previous technology in history was just a tool in our hands. We decide what to do with it. A printing press cannot decide which book to print, and it cannot invent a new weapon. AI can do that.
Now look at her
AI
face.
can make decisions.
Look at her face. It's dawning on her what he's saying.
What to print, and it can write new texts by itself. AI weapons can decide by themselves who to bomb and can potentially invent new weapons and new military strategies.
So she was understanding exactly what he's saying. AI can be used to decide who lives and who dies. AI can be decide who gets killed and who doesn't. And I think she was having a moment of honesty there, staring off into space. These people are sick. This is sick. They think that they know better than you do, than I do, to control our lives. And they promise peace. They promise security. What they're really promising is slavery. And that brings us now to the China front. So a new updated infographic regarding activity around Taiwan for January 2025. We've been bringing these up every month. You'll notice that it's getting increasingly dense around Taiwan. There's more and more incursions. Now, the Chinese are trying to set a baseline, and then one day they'll just pull the trigger, and it will be hard to detect that that's actually what they're doing. And that being a blockade of Taiwan first. Interesting, though, Trump, in anticipation of this, is doing some things ahead of time. And one of those things is bringing manufacturing back to the United States for critical components and chips, for example. But also by revamping our military and our shipbuilding. A new unreported submarine in China leaves the West guessing. China's incredible naval expansion and modernization continues. The latest surprise is yet another new and unexplained submarine. The boat, whose designation is unknown, has a distinct ultra-modern layout, and along with the rapid building of invasion barges. Now, by the way, these look like civilian ferries. Invasion barges at the Guangzhou shipyard in southern China. A submarine has entered the scene as well. The shipyard is not known for submarine construction, but the presence of the boat is revealed in satellite imagery. The new boat was noticed in a floating dock by a defense watcher, M.T. Anderson. Now, so we give him a hat tip for that and catching it. But this isn't the first. And so you see China expanding massively now, their Navy, because they realize that's what they need to counter the United States. And this isn't just about Taiwan. Back in 2000, General Chiwetel's secret speech, and also unrestricted warfare, you get the sense very clearly that China is not going to stop at Taiwan. That Alaska may, in fact, be a target as well because of its mineral resources and its oil. So this is about China creating a blue water navy to project power around the world and to challenge the United States of America. That's why President Trump is meeting with the Japanese Prime Minister February 6th through 8th on a U.S. trip, according to a government spokesman. And he wants to shore up that relationship as a hedge against China. Also, Donald Trump announced tariffs, 10% tariffs against China. China announced retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods, 10% across the board and 15% on U.S. coal and liquid natural gas. So here's the thing. For us, what are we willing to give up? Some of the cheap goods that are bought at Walmart, are we willing to give that up to be free? And that's a question that each of us has to answer in our own families. And that brings us now to the Middle East front. According to a release from U.S. Central Command, Iraqi security forces supported by CENTCOM carried out precision strikes near Kirkuk, Iraq, and these killed 5 ISIS terrorists. During the post-strike clearance of the scene, a number of suicide belts were recovered alongside other specified materials. So it looks like they were disrupting a suicide terror plot. So President Trump is taking out ISIS systematically there, even though the focus has been on other things around the world. And it's interesting, too, and I hope that he declassifies the presidential study directive that really became a policy to back the Muslim Brotherhood. Because the Muslim Brotherhood is the umbrella organization that has spawned a lot of these terror organizations. And I hear people saying all the time, no, the history's clear on this. President Trump is also signing a an executive order on to reinstate maximum pressure on Iran. And this actually was signed right before I think we came on the air. The reason maximum pressure is being put on Iran is because Iran is speeding up its development of nuclear weapons. In fact, it is at the point where they could put together nuclear weapons. They have all the parts, they have everything, they have the refined fissile material to do this. So why are we waiting? Why are we waiting to put pressure on them? Exactly. So that's why President Trump has signed this. And also, this would appear to be a green light, at least in the near future, for Israel to take out some of those nuclear facilities. We'll see in the next 90 days. The Muslim Brotherhood appointed Jolani as the big celebrity of the Middle East, and that really does appear to be it. Suit-watching jihadis becoming the norm now. Now, that picture right there, you see the caliph with the man from the Golan Heights, both in suits. They look very official, although they both have ties directly to terror networks. An interesting change potentially in U.S. policy. Donald Trump hosted Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today at the White House, and he said when asked about the potential of the establishment of a Palestinian state, quote, a lot of plans change with time, end quote. He also mentioned that Gaza was an absolute disaster. It's not working. Only death is there. And that he is continuing to pursue a removal. You heard that correctly. And a displacement of the people out of Gaza, which means he may turn it over to Israel. Which means, if I'm understanding this correctly, that we're walking away from a two-state solution. To which I would say it's about time. There was no such thing. It was only put in place so that they could continue to build up and destroy Israel. Those are not my words, actually. Those are theirs. And in Judea and Samaria, Palestinian Authority looks like it's not going to be trusted to take over either, even though they have offered to take over for Hamas. Which is why this next article is so important. A U.S. warship fired a Helios 60 kilowatt class directed energy laser weapon developed by Lockheed Martin. Now, this laser weapon is what is going to revolutionize warfare because it costs a lot of money to build missiles and rockets. But with a laser, the cost per shot is cheap enough that it makes it cost effective to take out drones and other missiles. And logistics is what wins wars. So a lot of people kind of miss the math on these things. but you continue to send, $500,000, multi-million-dollar missiles at drones, and the drones only cost $50,000. Eventually, the logistics is going to determine who wins the war. With laser weapons, that changes the equation entirely. This is a huge development, especially for the Middle East. When we come back from the break, the Russia front and U.S. aid and the FBI, some house cleaning happening that you all should be happy about.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Hey folks, it's your buddy John Rich here and co-founder of Old Glory Bank. Let me ask you a question. Why would you trust your banking with people that hate you? Well, you shouldn't. We're building a freedom economy, and now we have a pro-America bank. It's called Old Glory Bank. Check it out at oldglorybank.com and open yourself an account today.
Old Glory Bank is a full-service, FDIC-insured online bank with business and consumer banking and customers in all 50 states. It takes just 8 minutes to open an account at oldglorybank.com.
And now the Russia front. Belgium becoming the latest country to ditch its nuclear power exit plan. In other words, they're going to stick with nuclear power. Why? Because it's the cheapest and most reliable base load power outside of, I would argue, hydroelectric power that is in existence. And we're going to see a huge shift toward nuclear power here in the next 10 years and towards small modular and micro nuclear reactors. Small modular nuclear reactors operate in a very, not just efficient, but very, in a very, what is the word I'm trying to search for here? They are very much something that you can move around at need. You can move it to, for example, a major industrial area, put a small modular nuclear reactor in there, and you're not going to have power outages during a major storm. You can bury the power lines, have that there, and you're done. This is one of the huge benefits. You can have micro nuclear reactors outside of a house or apartment complex, generating enough power and make it so that you can add to it as you need. It's incredible. But probably the best part about it is it's decentralized power generation, which means it would be really hard to take down the grid because all of the generation facilities are at the local level decentralized. Probably the best piece of this that people really don't talk about that much. And one of the reasons we need to do this will make us hardened against enemies who would try to take down all of our power grid because we have centralized control stations and centralized generation. Belgium following Sweden in that vein. And coming to us from Sweden, Swedish police confirm at least 10 killed in a school shooting in Örebro. A 35-year-old man entered the school with an automatic weapon. Don't they have like anti-gun laws there or something like that? Swedish Prime Minister will hold a press conference with more info. Here's the bottom line. Armed citizens make for a polite society. Bottom line. Now, this next article, very interesting for a couple of reasons. The first is that most people don't know that Ukraine sits on a huge wealth of oil, especially in the Donbass region. And part of what the war is over those resources. But the second is because there are a whole bunch of other natural resources in Ukraine, as this map shows, the main mineral deposits. So when it was brought up today that perhaps as part of a deal going forward that rare earth minerals should come from Ukraine to the United States, well, suddenly you have my attention and President Trump should have your attention, because this is going to end up being one of the real reasons that this conflict gets settled. Or not. Also, Ukrainian President Zelensky demands the West provide Ukraine with nuclear weapons, because that would be awesome. That would be really, we would want to have. Why would we do that? And more importantly, why would he think he could ask that? That brings us now to the Central and South American front. Marco Rubio, the new Secretary of State, saying this isn't my money. This is so refreshing. Finally, somebody's saying this. This isn't my money. This is taxpayer money. We're not going to eliminate foreign aid. We're going to have foreign aid that makes sense. We're going to have foreign aid that furthers the national interest of the United States. And you would think this would be the obvious thing, but it's actually not happening right now. And I love the fact that as he met with Nayib Bukele down in El Salvador, they look like friends. And El Salvador says, yeah, we'll take prisoners. We've got a great prison system down here. We'll take some of the prisoners, some of the violent criminals out of the United States for you, because there's a friendship there and an understanding there. And a lot of these leaders have come out publicly and said, we understand why you're getting rid of U.S. aid, because it's been used to overthrow governments that happen to be freedom-oriented, happen to want to protect their borders. Very interesting how that funding was skewed. Also, Bloomberg reports that Panama is now considering, because they just canceled their participation in the Belt and Road. They took down all of the Chinese language signs in their airport. They've agreed to shift away from China and toward the United States. Now they're considering canceling a deal with Hong Kong that operates ports in Panama. Wow. What a difference. I mean, we're not even 30 days in. What a difference a few weeks makes. That brings us now to the national front. I think you need to hear this next video. President Trump has left explicit instructions for his advisors in the event of assassination by Iran. And what he says sounds like a launch on death. Go ahead and roll the clip.
Iran and their proxies who have threatened to retaliate against you and your team by killing you guys for taking out Soleimani.
Well, they haven't done that, and that would be a terrible thing for them to do, not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That would be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left. And they shouldn't be able to do it. And Biden should have said that, but he never did. I don't know why, lack of intelligence, perhaps. But he never said it. If that happens to a leader, or close to a leader, frankly, if you had other people involved also, you would call for total obliteration of a state that did it. That would include Iran. So I'm signing.
That was pretty clear. That was pretty clear, and a very clear message to anyone who would threaten a leader. And Trump is also not just saying himself, any leader of the United States. That was a clear shot across the bow. Now, on the good news front, in December 2024, the U.S. Army had the best recruiting numbers in 12 years. I wonder why, because there was a change of leadership. And then in January 2025, the Army has hit its best recruiting number in 15 years. Bottom line, America's youth want to serve under the bold and strong America First leadership of @real Donald Trump, according to Pete Hegseth. Again, great leadership and a huge change. The U.S. has frozen funding contributions to Haiti and the multinational security force there. One of the reasons why is because some of this funding may not have been going to that, as we're going to get to here in a short second. But also, shouldn't we audit and review where taxpayer money is going? Why is auditing such a big thing? Well, because we suddenly begin to find out who actually is making money through the government bureaucracy. I don't think you're going to be surprised by who's making money. Bill Kristol, Senator Lindsey Graham, according to Mike Pence and others. Interesting. But this really brings up a question about morality right now. As Christians, as Americans who love our country, are we actually funding things that are making people's lives worse? Are we funding things that are actually coming against us for our own destruction? And the answer, at least initially, appears to be yes. In fact, I would say definitely yes. So that brings us to some interesting people. Now, I remember being accused of all kinds of things, fully exonerated now, praise the Lord. But you have Democrats advocating for breaking the law, literally and on camera. Ilhan Omar is conducting seminars for Somalians who are living illegally in the U.S. without documentation, providing guidance on how to evade deportation. I wonder what Tom Homan is going to do with that. Also in Arizona, an Arizona attorney who worked for the Mexican government in Tucson was caught on a sting instructing illegal foreign nationals to lie to law enforcement. Training session happened at the Southside Workers Center. I wonder if her bar license, like Sidney Powell's, will be challenged. Now, Sidney defeated those accusations against her, but because they were baseless, by the way. Well, what's going to happen to this attorney? We're going to follow that story. Now, for most of you, you know that egg prices are going through the roof. They tried to blame Trump, but his press secretary accurately called him out and said, hey, listen, when you kill that many chickens under a Biden administration order, when you kill that many chickens, yeah, you're going to have a shortage of eggs. And so today, state police are searching for a suspect after 100,000 eggs were stolen from an egg distributor trailer in Pennsylvania. Eggs are apparently like gold, and because they're like gold, this meme, impress her with something expensive, becomes all the more hilarious. Maybe a couple dozen eggs would truly show love. I don't know. Sawyer, what do you think? President Trump has also confirmed that U.S. aid will be winding down. When we come back from the break, we're going to get into why that's happening. And will there be a cabal of Democrats and Rhino Republicans to try and fight that? And why would they want to fight? To keep corruption.
Behind the power.
Vladimir Putin will remain in office until 2036.
Beneath the secrecy.
You'll be the most powerful man in the world.
Is the real story that defies reality. Putin is being called bold.
What's your strategy to bring them back to the Stone Age?
Chilling. You won't be able to look away.
How can his kingdom last?
Putin. Rated R. In select theaters January 10th.
I couldn't give anything a higher endorsement.
I would be remiss had I not include Cardio Miracle on my very short list of secrets.
It's the real deal. It's a real product. It's not another supplement.
I'm operating about 6 to 8 hours, and I've noticed that being on this Cardio Miracle has made a huge difference.
Since I started taking Cardio Miracle, about 8 months into it, the benefits have been fantastic.
You know, if I get hungry, then I just have a Cardio Miracle.
Not only is it safe, but it's necessary to take Cardio Miracle to stay well.
This let me sleep. It's showing up more energy, more get up and go.
And it's all because of what this company does.
For me as a doctor, Cardio Miracle is a staple.
Cardio Miracle to me is hope in a glass.
To try Cardio Miracle for yourself and get a special fan discount, go to the host page right now and click the link for Cardio Miracle.
The U.S. State Department is moving to evacuate U.S. aid staff, wait for it, worldwide. Wait a minute. They're actually operating worldwide? Yes, they are. Evacuating all U.S. aid staff. They were calling all U.S. aid employees, including family members, to the United States by Saturday. Praise God. They can quit messing around in the world. Now, as J. Michael Waller points out, USAID is not a front for the CIA. It's actually worse than that. It became its own unaccountable covert operations agency, and USAID ran covert ops without a presidential finding as required by law. That alone would allow it to be abolished because, well, it was executive orders and memorandums that kind of created this thing. So why would people fight so hard to try to keep this thing intact? Why would they show up down there at USAID in Washington, D.C., almost like it was a bank run? Well, perhaps that's because it's undermining the Marxist agenda. Tyler O'Neill, President Trump's foreign aid pause and USAID restructure will harm the international funding empire set up by George Soros and currently run by his son, Alex Soros. Soros' Open Society Foundation has worked alongside USAID many times in the past, and Open Society Foundation is a central funding node for the woke-topus. What is that? Like an octopus with a bunch of tentacles? That we got to think of a better name marketing-wise for that. Anyway, that's what they said. So the network of far-left activists that infiltrated and brainwashed the federal government under Joe Biden. Bottom line is, we are taking the funding away from the globalists who are trying to fund the destruction of the United States of America. That is what President Trump is doing. That's what we, the people, have voted for. Now, specifically, 1,400 USAID employees will officially be notified of their leave status, adding to the 600 staffers who were already sidelined starting Sunday night. That's 2,000 employees. For years, USAID has operated with minimal oversight, funneling American taxpayer dollars to questionable initiatives, including the following: $1.5 million to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbian businesses. Probably not the best place to do that. $70,000 for DEI-themed musical in Ireland. I wonder if it included Irish dancing, Sawyer. $2.5 million for electric vehicles in Vietnam. $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia. $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. $2 million for taxpayer-funded sex changes and LGBT activism in Guatemala. Again, probably not the best place to do that. Probably shouldn't be doing that at all. $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt and millions of dollars funneled to Eco Health Alliance. Wait for it. Now, okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to step back. This isn't an I told you so moment. I remember when COVID started. I remember in February when COVID started, people are asking questions, and I was on this show, and I said, there has been funding from the United States of America that has gone to this gain-of-function research in Wuhan, in China. I remember people were saying, that can't be possible. U.S. universities were not part of that, blah, 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 blah. Eco Health Alliance, you can't make this stuff up. Eco Health Alliance, a group linked to gain-of-function research in Wuhan, was getting millions of dollars through USAID. USAID was caught sending hundreds of thousands of dollars to a nonprofit organization linked to designated terrorist groups, even after an inspector general's investigation was launched. But wait, there's more. It's unclear what will happen to USAID, which had a budget of $44.7 billion in 2024. Now, while they want to eliminate it, they have to dismantle it. It's that big. And Ilhan Omar threw a fit on live television over President Trump freezing USAID payments, calling him a dictator. Or maybe he just wants to stop corruption, and maybe there might need to be an investigation into what you've supported, Ilhan. Also, Mike Benz Cyber, and if you aren't following Mike Benz, you need to be, exposed USAID's role in pushing advertiser boycotts for social media censorship last year. In other words, your taxpayer money was going to silence those whom you listen to. I wonder if Patriot Radio was censored in any way. Maybe we'll find out soon. So why are people getting bent out of shape? Well, for example, J. Michael Waller tracked some things down with Representative Jamie Raskin's district, and lo and behold, a few companies in Raskin's congressional district raked in about $1 billion in 2024. DAI Global, ABT Associates, Global Communities, Zemetech, Panagora Group, not public, but one of its many contracts was $37 million, a cool $37 million. I wonder if anybody sits on these boards. Perhaps that's the next level of investigation we're going to see in the next week. Also, Elon Musk, quote, USAID is a criminal organization, end quote. Federal procurement data shows that USAID approved over $6 million in contracts on Friday, including a $1.2 million payment to Delute, I don't know how you pronounce that, for HR services, $600,000 for International Center for Language Studies, and over $100,000 for miscellaneous, I love that, miscellaneous foreign awardees. But yeah, there's some work to do, according to Elon Musk, to get to the bottom of that in the details. Now, some private bloggers are doing this research. One of them is Data Republican. While debugging, they found that UEI, not USAID, but HHS, including FEMA, was heavily tied to refugee programs, which explains why they may have run out of money, quote unquote, back when this North Carolina disaster happened with Hurricane Helene. Active awards, $376 million. Reported government grants, $186 million. Well, that's fascinating. And there needs to be more research into that. We're going to be tracking that as well. President Trump has just appointed Secretary of State Marco Rubio as acting director of USAID because it needs to be reformed, dismantled, and done away with. And I love that last part, the corruption ends now. Carolyn Levitt, the spokesperson for the president, just exposed USAID, laying out a few things that I just went over. So this is not something that is hyperbole. Millions of taxpayer dollars that didn't go to North Carolina, didn't go to hurricane victims, but went to corruption? Question mark. And will there be prosecutions? Question mark. Elon Musk explained what they did. They said all the Department of Government Efficiency did was check to see which federal organizations were violating the president's executive orders the most. It turned out to be USAID, so that became their focus. So they're just following the facts. Also, the Department of State put out a very clear statement about this. The United States Agency for International Development has long strayed from its original mission of responsibly advancing American interests abroad, and it is now abundantly clear that significant portions of USAID funding are not aligned with the core national interests of the United States. And as an interim step of gaining control and better understanding over the agency's activity, President Trump appointed Secretary Rubio as the acting administrator, and it looks like they will be winding that agency down. Whew. Back in 1995, J. Michael Waller found this. USAID said in a memorandum that its strategy was to delay, postpone, obfuscate, and derail any policies for transparency and efficiency regarding oversight of that agency. You don't say. Senator Lindsey Graham is a director at the International Republican Institute, a nonprofit funded by USAID, government funding $130 $8.7 million. Active grants, $9.2 million. Perhaps that explains some things. Law professor Jonathan Turley says it's time to shut down the taxpayer-funded gravy train for NPR, the National Public Radio. Yeah, it's about time. Very biased as well. And in addition to that, there's a lot of bias inside the FBI. We're going to get to that next time on Patriot Radio, but I want to end with some good news today that Ted Cruz came out very clearly and said that we should abolish the IRS. Also, it was announced today that over 1,000 employees at the Environmental Protection Agency have been informed that they could be dismissed immediately. In addition to that, Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. have advanced out of committee to the full Senate floor for approval. Looks like they will be the Director of National Intelligence and, well, make America healthy again very soon. And that's because the people have been weighing in here. And the one thing that politicians understand is getting reelected. What can you do with all of this happening? Share on social media. I want you to go on to the Telegram channel that we have, patriotradio.us/Telegram. Follow it. Share the information from that with your friends and your family. Show them the facts. This is what USAID was going for. Do you really believe that we should be spending money on that stuff? Do you believe that we should be spending money to overthrow governments just because there might be conservatives who want to secure the borders? Have those conversations with your friends and family, because it's going to take all of us to make America great and healthy again. This is Matt Shea. I want to thank you for joining me on Patriot Radio today. Remember, we are also on Patriot TV, 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday and Sunday. You should subscribe to Patriot TV, best source of news around today. May God bless all of you. He is making this generation the greatest one. The awakening is here. So keep up the fight.